Hello, this is video training. What we'll be covering, and this is Service Level 2, Chapter 2. And what we'll be covering on Chapter 2 is setting up labor codes and setting up kits. Let's begin by going into Service. This is the main menu for Service. Now, in previous lessons, we've shown you how to select from a service history file. So if somebody comes in and says, hey, I want to do this job again that I did last year, or 6 months ago, or 10 months ago, or 10 years ago, you can select from their history file if you've done that job, and it'll carry it in as a new job, take all the parts, take all the information, all the verbiage, exactly how long it took, and use that for a new job. So we've covered that in Chapter 1. Let's take another scenario. Let's suppose it's the beginning of the season, and I do a tune-up on a Honda Goldwing, or I do a water pump job on a Merc OutDrive. Now I know if that customer comes back and wants another water pump done, I've got it in the history file, and I can just click on it and never have to look those parts up again. Or suppose the customer comes back for a tune-up. There again, it's in his history file. I'll never have to worry about doing that again. But what if I have the scenario where I say, you know what, I'm a Mercury dealer. I do water pumps all the time, and I do them on Mercuries all the time. I don't want to have to rekey it in just because I've never done it for this customer. I want to clone that job. I want to save it because I know I'm going to probably do 10 or 20 or 30 of those. So the next 10 or 20 or 30 that I do, I won't have to look up the parts. I won't have to type in a big description of what I've done. I know exactly how long it should take. So it's what we call cloning a job. Let's go in and show you how you can do that first. We're going into labor maintenance and reports. Now there's a lot of buttons in here, and this screen is a screen you saw earlier. You know, what type of job it is it flagged, is it quarterly, is it past a bill? There's a few more buttons here, obviously. Well, that's what we call clone a job. What that is that's this button right here, create labor from a closed or open work order. What that really means is that I want to go out to a job I've done already. It could be open. Most of the time they're closed, obviously the job's finished. And I want to pick that job and I want to clone it and I want to put it in my labor flat rate file. Because I know I'm going to be doing more of those. I know I'm going to be doing them for more customers than the one I just did it for. And I want to save myself a lot of time and aggravation. So let's create a clone a job. I'm going to hit create labor from a closed to open work order. Now, it's telling me some information here. It's saying pick an open or closed RO from a list. If you want to list closed RO, you must check list closed RO, then pick job from the RO selected. All right. What it's basically telling me, this is our standard work order lookup. Well, obviously what it normally does, it defaults to go in here and only show me open work orders. There's a check mark over here, list closed ROs. So if in fact I want to pick a job from a job that's closed, which is normally what you want to do, you'd hit closed. Now just because I selected it doesn't mean it's going to list them. What I need to do is select how do I want them. Do I want them by stock number? Do I want to type something in into a keyword search? Do I want to just type in by RO number, which will always list the newest RO at the top and the oldest at the bottom? Let's just select by RO number. Obviously, all the blue ones are jobs that have been complete. So whether we select a job that's complete or one that's still open, we can clone a job. Let's do this job 588. These are the jobs that we did. Let's say that tune-up. A tune-up this is a motor that's very popular. We're going to do a lot of tune-ups on this, and I don't want to be typing in the same spark plugs, the same information over and over again. It's the beginning of the season. I'll probably do 20 or 30 of these. So I'm going to save myself a lot of time. So let's clone the tune-up. Basically it says, what do you want to use for a code? Now this is not very important. You know, what's important here, this is just a unique code. You can't have two of them that's the same. It really doesn't matter what I do here. Maybe when I did the job, I said it was a tune-up and I used T/U. Maybe I'm just going to use, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It doesn't really matter. That's not the important thing. This is just you only can have one with each code. Let's just make a unique number. It's going out and it's saying these are the pots that I use to do that job. Now some people may over here put down maybe the year and the model of whatever it is. In this case, I'm going to say, okay, it's a tune-up, and I just assigned it a number. These are the pots I use for doing that job. Now, this is an alternate key where you can look things up. Maybe I want to say tune-up, and it's a, I don't know, it's a Yamaha, 150 dash 225 HP 98 to 07. So that can be kind of whatever you want. These are the pots I used. I can change anything I want here. We're going to go over that a little bit further. Right now, I just want to take the exact pots I use for the job. There's the amount of pots I use. There's the vendor pots. There's the numbers. Now, keep in mind, once we clone a job, it'll create a kit and tie it into what we call a job code. What it's also going to do is it'll maintain this forever. For example, if any of these pots get superseded, the computer will take care of it for you. You don't have to worry about maintaining it. Obviously, you'll always go out and get the newest prices. So as you do your manufacturer updates, as you tell the system this has been superseded by doing the manufacturer updates or manually supersede, it'll go out and change all these kits and all this information that you're doing here. So we've added this here. I'm going to hit exit. It's just showing me the pots. Now it comes over here and says, okay, this is the description that you used last time you did the job. Last time you did the job, it was a flat rate job. It was $200. This is what your cost was. This is how long it took you. It took you 2.5 hours. It's going to use that for your estimated time. This is the description that you use. If I want to change it, I can change it. If I want to add to it, I can add to it. One thing that's very important is this job category. That's the thing that's very important. There's two things that are important. One is the job category, and one is this first line. Because when you're looking at this job, you may have 20 tune-ups. You may have 100 tune-ups. You need to know which one to select when you're doing a lookup. So this is the line that's very important. When you were keying it in, when you put the job in, you didn't really need to specify what it was for. It was for a certain product. You just said we're doing a tune-up. Nobody really cared. Now we really need to get more definitive here. We need to maybe say tune-up and maybe say what it was. Hey, it was a Yamaha, maybe 150 to 225, HP, and maybe you want the year. It was 02 to or maybe it's a 98 to 2009. How's that? Can type, right? So there again, you can make this very informative, but this is something that you need to be able to read and figure out what the tune-up is for. Very important. Obviously, you can change this description to be a little bit more meaningful if you wish. You can change this from either an hourly or a flat. Now, a flat, keep in mind, if it's a flat rate job and I need to change the price, you need to go out and change the price. If it's an hourly job, if you leave the estimated labor list as 0, what it will do, it'll use your standard hourly rate. So we'll do an hourly job next, and we'll show you how that works. But now I've got my description. I got my job category, which is, you know what? When I'm looking up jobs, I want to be able to say tune-up. Now maybe I want to put a space there, maybe I don't, but I want that as a category, and you'll see how that works in a minute. So I've put all this in. I've made some changes to this. So because I've made changes, I have to hit change record. If I don't hit change record, all the things I did, this description, as well as this right here, and if I made any changes here, won't take effect unless I hit change. Now I've created that. It's a flat rate job. It's cloned. Whenever I do this Yamaha 150 to 225, that's what it's going to use. It knows the pots. It knows everything. Let's clone another job. This time, let's do a motorcycle. And we'll do the same thing. Let's just do the tune-up. And you know what? We used the same code before, but this one here, we're going to say, hey, maybe this was a Honda, and it was a Honda Goldwing, and you can put in pretty much anything you want here as long as it's unique. That's not what's important. What's important is, there again is our code that has to be unique. This here might be my description, which would be a little bit more meaningful. There again, you can kind of put what you want. You know. Okay, and we're going to say, okay, this is fine right here, and we put that in. Here's my pots. Now, if I want to add pots to this, I can. If I want to change one of these pots, maybe I want to change the quantity, that's fine. If I want to add a pot, suppose I want to add a brand new pot to this. That, you know what, in this particular job, I want to add some more pots. Or you know what, maybe I want to create one work order that might be for 4 or 5 different models. So what I may want to do is say, look, you know what, maybe a 1000 cc uses a BR80, BR8ES, maybe a 700 cc uses a BR7ES, and I don't want to have a separate one for each one. I don't really want to get that complicated. I just want to have one that says Goldwing, and on here I want a description that says, okay, if it's 700 cc, you pick this. If it's 1000 cc, you pick that. What you can do is this, is you can change the description to whatever you want. Maybe I'll say this is the 700 cc pots I want to use. And what I want to do now is put in the pot number that I know. Now I can type it in, BR7ES, and it's a Yamaha, and maybe we need 4 of them. Maybe I want to do this here. And this time I don't know the pot number. So if you read what it says, double click pot number for lookup. Okay, let's double click. And now I'm in my pot lookup. Now there again, I can look up anything I want, regardless of what the manufacturer is. Whether I have it in stock or whether I don't, it really doesn't matter. If I want to see everything that's in my manufacturer file, and maybe I just want to pick this pot right here, I want to put that on that kit. Okay, we're going to do this spacer. That's going to be on that kit. That's the description that I want. If I leave the description blank and I double click again, it goes right to where we were, and I pick a pot here. I want to put this battery on here. Now if I leave that blank, it's going to take the description of the pot and put it there. So that's important. If you want your own personal description, where maybe you want to have 5 different plugs and say, okay, this is what the 700 cc does, this is what the 800 cc does, and then somebody, when this comes up, they can just click on the ones that they want. Okay, this is a 700 cc, they can click that. Or if you leave it blank, it's going to put the pot in the description. You also can create kits using the fiche. If you're creating one from scratch and it wasn't from history, maybe you'd want, and we're going to do that, and we'll use the fiche when we do that. I made some changes here. I'm going to hit change. Now I'm going to hit exit, and now this is the description that we used. Maybe I want to change this. Maybe I want to take this stuff right out of here. So I'm going to cut it. We don't need that. And there again, you can change this to be whatever you want. I need to give it a category. That's important. So I need to change this description here. So you know what? It's a little bit more meaningful. What is this? Maybe it's a Honda Goldwing. And you can put in whatever you want here. And there again, it's sometimes easier to keep things short and sweet. So you can type in whatever you want for a description. It needs to be something that's meaningful, obviously. Now on this one here, I want to change this to hourly. What I want to do, and let's just do this here, right? We're going to just say tune up under, and maybe we're going to say it's a 2005 to 2008. I don't know if I can type right. Okay. And obviously this is something that's very important. What the category is. Well, the category is going to be tune-up. So when I say I want to see all my tune-ups, I want to see this. Now I want to change this. You know what? I want this to be 0. You know what? I want to use my standard hourly rate. That means that right now when I did the job, maybe I charged $65 an hour because that was my rate. But next year, if I change my standard hourly rate, I want it to default to my standard hourly rate. So I'm going to use this one here, pass the bill. And now by putting that as 0, it will automatically look at my standard hourly rate and that's what it's going to bill. If it's 65 today, it'll be 65. If I change it tomorrow to 85, it'll automatically bill out at 85. There again, I made some changes here, so I need to hit change. So we've created a couple of jobs from work orders that we've done, which is obviously the easiest way to do it. You have to do the job. You have to look up the parts. You have to do that stuff. You have to do it. You're doing it for a particular customer. Now what you're doing is you're looking and you're saying, you know what? I just did a job on something that I'm probably going to do a lot more of those. Obviously, if I do it for this one customer again, I know I can copy that because I can copy from anything in my history file. But I want to clone it so it's in my labor code file so that anytime somebody walks in, if I'm doing a similar job, I can click it and save myself a lot of time and aggravation. So that's what we've done, and we've done that by creating labor from a closed or open work order. Now, let's just do a lookup. Now, when you do a lookup, here's our standard lookup, and it goes to whatever we were at last. And if I hit the Enter key and just select job code, it's listing everything in alphabetical order by my job code. And using the down and up arrow key is what it's looking at. If I do keyword, obviously I can go in here and say, look, I'm looking for anything that's doing a tune-up. You know, I don't care where that word is, it's going to find it. You know, you can narrow it down to say anything with the word oil in it. Okay. And, so there again, keyword is your standard keyword that you've seen many times before. But usually when you're looking for something, this is how you're going to want to do it. You're going to want to select category. And these are all those categories. Every time you create something in that category field, it creates a category. So, for example, if I'm looking for a tune-up, I would go down here until I find tune-up. And, we'd go down here, and here's my tune-ups. Now, I created them two different ways, but there's the ones I just created, and here's those two tune-ups. So this code here really isn't important. This is what's important, the fact that I can read that and figure out what it is and which one to select. Now, notice that we have a lot of them in here. Keep in mind, we do have the flat rate files. We have the flat rate files from many, many industries. We have the flat rate file for the marine industry. We have the flat rate file for the motorcycle industry. So we can give you the numbers and the contacts of where you can get this information so it can be downloaded for your system. So if you're a marine dealer and you want the marine flat rate file of all jobs, like, okay, I'm doing a water pump and it's a Volvo, there again, this is exactly how long it's supposed to take you, and this will give you the actual time of the flat rate book for each one of these jobs. If you're in the motorcycle business, same thing. We can give you the flat rate book for all your standard jobs. So if you've never worked on a particular brand before, maybe doing a Honda Going you've never worked on before, you don't really know how long it takes, you can look at the flat rate file and know this job is a 2-hour job. Notice that all the labor rates are 0 here. That's because what it's going to do, if I selected any of these, it's going to go out there and it's going to take my standard labor rate, which would be whatever my hourly rate is, and say this is a 4-hour job, that's how long it's going to take. So this is what you're going to be seeing when you do a lookup. And normally you do lookups by category. I'm looking for a tune-up. I'm looking for, winterization. I'm looking for tire changes, whatever. And then you'll have it listed. And when you see a list, this is what you're going to be looking at to select the actual item that you want. Okay. So we also can create a manual job. We don't have to wait until we do work on a particular work order. We can go out here and say, you know what, I've got nothing to do. It's a little bit slow. I know in another month I'm going to be doing a lot of these, maybe spring tune-ups, and I just want to create one. And that's what I want to do. And I want to do it by, I'm going to type in what I want for a description, and I want to select the parts I know I'm going to use. So you can create a brand new one from scratch. Now, there are some tricks here. If you've got one that's close, you can actually use this button here, copy labor code, where I can say, you know what, this one here is really close. I need to create another one, but it's pretty close. I'm going to use basically the same description, about the same amount of time. It's going to go into the same category. Maybe I just need different parts, or maybe a couple extra lines on the description. So this is, you can use if you want to look one up and copy it to another one. Let's do this here. Let's start a brand new one. I'm going to clear my screen. Start off with a blank screen. and I'm going to give it a labor code. Maybe the labor code's going to be tune up dash, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Now, I had that one out there already. So let's do that again. Let's do T/U and ABC. And we're going to hit the enter code, and now we're adding new. Obviously, as you can see, if you type the code that was out there already, it's going to bring it up on the screen and say, okay, that's being used. Now, this is the line that's important. What is this thing? It's a tune-up, and maybe we want to say it's a Yamaha, let's say 90 to 120. And, maybe the year is 1990, well, we'll just do 98 to 2007. And now this is the same as what we went over in Chapter 1. Maybe this is a quantity job. Maybe this is we're shrink wrapping. Maybe we're painting the bottom of a boat. Maybe I want to just say painting the bottom of a boat. We get, X amount of dollars an hour, and I want to ask how many feet there is. So this is the exact same thing we went over in Level 1, Chapter 1 on how to begin a work order. You're looking at basically the same screen, so it's asking you the same questions. So if it's a quantity and you want the computer to come back and say, hey, how many feet is it? How big is it? Or a tire change, how many tires we got? Then you'd want quantity. If it's hourly, you want hourly. Obviously, this is the exact same thing. Pass the bill or not pass the bill. If you're not passing anything to the bill, you select one of these. Let's just say it's going to be, hourly pass the bill. I'm going to leave that blank. I want it just to use my standard hourly rate. Or maybe this is a special job. It's a special job and we get $100 an hour here. And that's it. Maybe my standard hourly rate is only 90, but this is a special job. What do you think the estimated cost is going to be? You can key that in and say, well, it's normally probably going to cost me around $30. And I think the estimated time is going to be a 1-hour job. How do you want to categorize this? Well, let's just call it tune-up again. Obviously this is a default. If your labor is taxable, that would automatically be checkmarked. Do you want to give it a description? And there again, you can type in as much or as little as you want. Obviously, you look much more professional if you have big descriptions. If I'm going to pay $100 for something, I'm not going to argue with you if you list a bunch of things that you do, and I'm going to say, wow, that's a good deal. You did a bunch of stuff here. Versus if you just tell me it's $100 for a tune-up. Well, there's more value if you list it, define it, and really fluff it up and make it look like the customer's really getting value for what he's paying for. So now what I want to do here is I'm saying, okay, I've created my labor here, and now if I want, I can just hit F4. And now my labor is created. Now maybe I don't want to put pots to it. Maybe all I want to do is just have a labor with the definition, how long it's supposed to take, and that's it. But if I want to, and I want to create a kit to say, you know what, all right, I've got my job. I've got plenty of time on my hands. I'm going to go look it up on the fiche and figure out what pots I need. So when I do this, I don't have to deal with it. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this button, create or update a kit. And now it says, okay, what do you want to make the code? It'll default to kind of what you made the code for the labor, which is probably what you want to leave it. You can change the description. You can make it a little bit different here. Maybe I'm just going to say T/U. And there again, this is something that the POTS people can also look up. And when they're looking up, they're probably going to look it up by this here. So maybe it's a Yamaha, there again, we said 90 to 120 HP. And there again, you can make it different or the one of the same. And, it was a 98 to a 08. Now we're going to go in here. Now, you know what? I'm not going to type in a description. I just want to use the pots. So there again, we have the same thing. You can type in a pot if you know what it is. Type in the vendor code. Type in how many you want. Or if you don't want to type in pots, obviously you can double click, go to a pot lookup, and pick any pot you want. It doesn't matter what the manufacturer is. There again, this is my standard pot lookup. And I can pick any pot I want from any vendor. And, now that pot's on there. Now, the description is not going to get loaded until we hit add. That's when it's going to go out. It's going to see if we put something here, like if I put something here, it's going to keep that. If I leave it blank, it's going to put the description of the actual pot. Now, like I mentioned earlier, we can actually create a kit by using the Fiche program. And you can do that by clicking on this button here. Create kit from Fiche. It's ask me what Fiche are we using. Well, let's go PotSmart. And now we'll bring up our PotSmart Fiche. And we can pick any pot we want off here. Obviously, this is the same Fiche that we've looked at in the pot sales program. If I want to grab that pot, which is that plate, I'm going to bring it down here. I'm going to say create my counter sale. And it's not a counter sale, we're creating a Fiche. There's that pot here. If you can select as many pots as you want. You're bringing them down here. It doesn't matter if you have it in stock. Obviously, the one with red, I know I don't have it in stock. That's why it's red. Okay, if I double click on it, it tells me I don't have it in red. I mean, you've seen all this on the inventory training, so you know how this works. And what I've got on the bottom of the screen here is I've got 3 pots that I've added. And actually, you can even do this. You can actually take a big group of pots and put them right down here. And I already got that on there, but I'm going to put it on there again. So, whether you want to just grab a whole group and put them on there, or just pick individual pots, that's fine. When you've picked all the pots you've wanted, and there again, I've got them all listed at the bottom here. I am now going to say post to BSV, same as we would do in the pot system. And now those pots that we took off the Fiche are now sitting in my kit. And because the description was blank, it used the description of the actual pot. Now, if I need to change quantities, obviously I can. So you can create all the pots you need, whether you create them from a Fiche program, whether you type in the pots individually, whether you double click and just look up the pots and pick them right there. All I really need to do is say I want to add this. Now, when I go back here, there's my kit. So now it knows when I type that in, it knows the description it's going to use for the job, as well as the pots I need. Now there's one more option we can include in here. There's a button here that says price includes all pots. If you have a job where you're saying, look it, and sometimes that's basically true with a flat rate job, well, you say, look it, for $500, it includes all the pots. If that's the case, and, we'll do that. And I'll do that just for this one. I'm going to actually say price includes all the pots. And we're going to hit change. So you have many options here that you can take advantage of. Okay, so we created some labor codes. Let's see how we can use those labor codes. Let's go into an RO, begin RO. Let's select a customer, and let's just say we're going to use this guy more. And he's coming in again here, and he's got this 1300. Obviously, you've seen the screen before in earlier chapters. We're just going to hit F12. Everything's okay here. Maybe what we'd want to do is look at history. Okay, well, the last time we worked on this was back in 2002. Also, the last time we worked on it, your front brakes were bad. Looks like they need to be replaced. Okay. Now what we also do is he wants a tune-up. Now, this is where this comes in. Before, when we went in there in previous chapters, we were using this, add job. Okay, this is great. I can type in whatever this customer wants me to do. Or we went into history and we selected if he wanted to do the same job again. So we've seen that. Now what we want to do is if this customer is coming in and I know I've got this job, what we call cloned, it's in my job code file. I can click here, and there again it's the same lookup. I can type in if I know I started with T/U, which I did, I can do that. And here's all my jobs that I started with T/U, and here's the definition of what they really are. Or I can just say, you know what, I'm looking for all my tune-ups. And you'd go down here and you'd find all your tune-ups. And, right here. And here's all my tune-ups. Now let's select the one that we just did. Now there's that one right here, which we said, okay, there's what the price is. We're charging $100 there. We put a price in. This one here we didn't. It's going to take my standard hourly rate and use that. And it's going to say it's 2.5. This one we also said the pots were included. So let's go take a look at this. I'm going to select this job. It comes up and says, okay, here's all the pots that you need. Do you want to pull them out of there and put them on the work order now? There again, this is the same thing we did in Chapter 1, starting in RO. If you want to select them all, say select all. Okay, I'm going to pull all these out of inventory. Yep. Now, this is the same thing that we did in inventory. It's going through all those pots, and it's basically saying, okay, I pulled these pots out of inventory. You have them in stock. It showed me that on the first screen, which ones I had, which ones I didn't. I want to special order the ones I don't have. Let's special order that. So I special ordered that one pot that wasn't in stock. I pulled all these out of inventory, and now they're sitting on the work order. Now, let's select another job. Let's select this job here. That's another one that we just created. Now, keep in mind, notice what it's doing here. It shows me the pots that I need to do the job. It also shows me how many I have in stock. So if you can see, I have plenty of all of these pots, except for this one. So what a lot of dealers will do when they're creating a work order, they look and they see, well, look, you know what, I don't have a problem with any of these. I don't really want to pull them out of inventory right now, because if I select on this, it's physically going to pull them out of inventory. If I'm not willing to go back and pull them out myself, then I don't want to do that, because now my inventory is going to be off. Because my inventory system thinks I took those out of inventory. If I didn't, it's going to be inaccurate. You're going to go back there and there's going to be 4 more in that box than you think it's in there. But what you really do want to do, I know I don't have this. Why don't I order it now? Why don't I put that on that special order clipboard right now? I'm not going to work on this maybe till next week, but I want to order the pot today. Why wait until next week to order it? So many dealers will not pull the pots out of inventory. They'll just select the pots they don't have. Or maybe I'm kind of low on this one here. Maybe I want to order it, even though maybe I don't want to pull it out of inventory. I can also do that. So now I just selected that one job, and I'm going to hit escape. And now it's going to say, yes, I'm going to pull that. But it's just going to come up and say, you don't have that. I know I don't have it. The reason I selected it is so I can order it now. Now that pot is going to be ordered. And when it comes in, it's going to automatically tell me that it came in for that particular work order. Now, we'll hit the escape key. We have our 2 jobs on here. This is the description. Obviously, it billed this one out at $100 an hour. It billed that one out at $174. That's using my standard hourly rate. If it increases, that amount will increase. Now, let's just create this work order here. It's basically telling me that I did pull pots out of inventory, so you really should go pull them out. You know, the computer is telling you what it did. I physically took them out of inventory. You need to take them now, because if you don't take them now and you forget, your inventory is not going to be accurate. Here's my work order that gets printed. Notice we didn't have to type anything. It knows exactly how long it's going to take. It should take 1 hour. Here's what we're going to do. So now the customer looks at this and says, you know, these guys do a lot for their work. Now let's go in and look at that work order. Like I said before, when you list work orders, the newest is always at the top. Well, let's take a look at that and see what it did. Notice what it did here. All those pots for that job that I put in there, they're included. It's not charging the customer for the pots. And what it did, it set up my estimate. It says, okay, as of right now, you estimated it should take 1. We haven't posted any time, so the actual time is 0. We haven't worked on it yet. But we know it's supposed to take 2.5 hours. We basically said, well, the fact that it's supposed to take, tentatively, we're charging $174. Now, there again, we're going to be changing that. As we talked about in level 1, chapter 3, billing an RO, you know, how to post your time, all that stuff is in there. And there again, posting time is going to be 1 of 3 ways. Whether you do it here, if it's typically small jobs, whether you do it through mechanic posting, or whether you do the time clock system, it's the same thing. We've already set this up. We already know these pots are included. If I want to see, well, let me see if there's anything special order. We have these 2 pots here that are ordered. They haven't come in yet. So everything you really need to do, everything is set up. We just saved ourselves a lot of time. The only thing we need to do now is obviously the special order pots, they'll be received. When they're received, the computer will tell me they're in. So now it'll tell me that it's time to work on this job. When I do work on the job, I'll now just post a mechanic time and make a decision. Do I want to increase or decrease this particular job? Okay, so now you can kind of see the flow of things, how you can create a job code, how you can save yourself a lot of time. And as time goes on, the easiest way to do this, by far the easiest way to do this, is just do what you do. Do the jobs that you work on. You're working on jobs all the time. After you'd go one season, just 1 year using the system, you're going to go through that and you're going to have a lot of history to work off of. And you can thumb through all the jobs that you've done and say, you know what, this is a job we're going to do a lot of. We work on that particular motor a lot. We do a lot of tune-ups for that. Let me clone it. So anytime somebody comes in, a brand new customer who I've never ever seen before, I don't have to look up the parts. I don't have to do anything. Okay. So that concludes going over setting up kits, setting up labor codes. There again, it's a real time saver. Customers that use this save a lot of time. In your course of a service business, in any service business, there's always going to be those repeat jobs, those jobs that are pretty routine. This is what we do. We're going to do normal spring tune-ups. There are certain things we do at the end of every year, the beginning of every year. Clone as many of them as you can. Obviously, there's always jobs where somebody comes in and says, I have a problem. It's totally different from anything you've ever seen before. And, you're going to have to type whatever the customer is telling you his problem is. But if you can clone a lot of jobs, as you use this tool, you'll get more experienced with it. And as we get in more of the advanced classes, we'll show you some other options that you can do with this tool. Right now, we're just going to keep it simple, keep it to the basics. Okay. This concludes this portion of the training. Go in, try cloning some jobs, go in, create some work orders, and